this morning, wherever you may be coming to us from. We are so excited to have you here and have you join us for the next hour or so. A quick rundown of how this is going to work is we will go around and do some introductions to give you a little bit of a teaser of who you might get to have answer your questions this evening. We have all 6 schools represented, so that's really awesome. I'll then give about a 10-minute overview of Northwestern just to make sure that we're all on the same page, and then it will be all Q&A and all you. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. The way that this is going to work is please drop all of your questions into our chat. And like I said, we'll address as many as possible. So I will start out our introductions. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Bernstein. I'm a very recent graduate of Northwestern. I graduated this past spring from the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, where I majored in neuroscience and minored in psychology on the pre-med track. I'm currently and have been working for admissions for quite a while, and I'm an admissions counselor. And I'll be returning to Northwestern in 2023 to get my MBA from the Kellogg School of Management. And with that, Kendall will kick off our popcorn introductions.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everyone. My name is Kendall. I am a 4th year in the School of Education and Social Policy. I also have minors in legal studies and Spanish. I'm from Winfield, Illinois, and when I'm not doing events with the admissions office, I am a student ambassador for our study abroad office. Nolan, do you want to introduce yourself?
For sure. Thank you, Kendall. Hi, everybody. My name is Nolan. I am a current 4th year studying theater and political science, and I'm in the music theater certificate program. I am from Evanston, not born, but raised. I was born in Baltimore. And I am very excited to be on this panel with all my favorite Wildcats. And I'm going to turn it over to Ezri.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ezri. I'm a current 4th year at Northwestern. I'm a dual degree student in Beanon and Medill studying voice and journalism. And I'm also in the music theater certificate, concentrating in music direction for the theater. And I do a lot of music directing on campus when I am not in the Zoom or physical classroom. So that's what I like to do with my free time. Alexis, would you like to go next?
Sure, thanks, Ezri. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis. I'm a current 4th year student here at Northwestern. I study English literature and psychology. And when I'm not working in the office, I'm part of the exec board for a club called Northwestern World Cup, which hosts some soccer tournaments throughout the year for philanthropic reasons. And then to finish it off, I'll pass it off to Sanath.
All right. Thanks, Alexis. Hi, everyone. My name is Sanath. I am a 3rd year student from Oakland, California. I study computer science in the McCormick School of Engineering. Along with that, I study managerial analytics from the Kellogg School of Management and a minor in psychology. When I'm not doing tour guided related things, I am the electrical lead for NASA Student Launch, which, as the name implies, we compete annually in a model rocket competition held by NASA. So I believe, Elizabeth, it's back to you.
Yes, thank you all for those intros. So we'll start off talking about Northwestern and talking about our trifecta of a location. So Northwestern really does have a phenomenal combination of different locations and types for students. So starting off with our campus, it's about a mile long north to south and along the shore of Lake Michigan, has a ton of really awesome green space, beautiful buildings, and great opportunities for students to engage on our campus itself. We're located in the city of Evanston, Illinois. It is really your quintessential college town and can often be known as the dining capital of the North Shore. So it has everything a college student could need, whether that's Chipotle, Target, or a Purple Pride store where students can get all of their Northwestern needs. Evanston really has you covered and is a really great supportive partner for Northwestern for all of our students to really engage with the city of Evanston. And then, of course, we are located just 2 miles north of the upper limit of Chicago and about 10 to 12 miles from the heart of downtown Chicago. Northwestern does have our law and medical campuses located in the city of Chicago, and we have a free inter-campus shuttle that helps students to really engage with Chicago. There's also the Metra and CTA for pretty much all your needs to get to any of the many neighborhoods that there are in Chicago. Northwestern really helps students to engage with the city, whether that's getting free access to the Art Institute by showing your wild card, which is your student ID, or by having NU Day at Wrigley. There's also a lot of really awesome professional opportunities for internships, externships, volunteering, like I did when I was an undergrad. Northwestern operates off of a 6-school model. So I'm going to run through them briefly. We have our Weinberg College for Arts and Sciences, which is the largest of our undergraduate schools. It houses about 50% of students and is home to a lot of different majors like biology, psychology, English, history, kind of a lot of the ologies and ories, if you will. Then we have our McCormick School of Engineering, which is our second largest school. It operates on a whole brain engineering philosophy, so helping students to access not only the analytical side of their brain, but also the creative side of their brain and come out not only as great engineers, but really great kind of whole brain problem solvers. Next, we have our School of Communication, home to a lot of our performing arts majors like theater and dance, as well as really interesting majors like communication sciences and disorders. The School of Communication is also home to some of our most famous alum like Meghan Markle. So if you're interested in becoming a princess, the School of Communication is definitely the right place for you. Then we have our Beanan School of Music. It is a conservatory style music school. That school does require an audition if you are interested in having that be your home school. But students at the Beanan School of Music also have access to all of Northwestern and really plays into our academic flexibility, which I'll talk a bit more about in just a few minutes. We have our School of Education and Social Policy, which is our smallest school and home to really cool majors like Kendall's Human Development and Psychological Services, as well as Learning Sciences, Social Policy, and really it's just an awesome school. It's actually our most transferred into school, so kind of known as a hidden gem on campus. And finally, we have our Medill School of Journalism, Media, and Integrated Marketing Communications, which is the school with the longest name, but the shortest number of majors, which is just one, journalism. All of our different 6 schools operate on the quarter system, which is Northwestern's academic structure and is slightly unique compared to a semester system that maybe you're more familiar with. So the quarter system basically has our academic year broken up into 4 parts. We have fall quarter, which goes from September to December, winter quarter, which goes from January to March, spring quarter, which goes from April to June, and summer quarter, which is kind of June to August. Students are not required to take classes in the summer, but that is an option available to students should they choose to do so. Students at Northwestern take an average of 4 classes per quarter, 12 classes per year, which equates to 48 classes over the course of your time at Northwestern, which is about 8 more on average than your typical semester-based system. That's really what gives students this immense flexibility. And as you heard in the introductions from pretty much all of us, no one is truly just studying one single thing or doing just one thing on campus. And that's true of 70% of our students at Northwestern who study more than one academic concentration, whether that second concentration is a major, a minor, a certificate, which are 3 of our really awesome different options here at Northwestern. Moving on a bit to academics, Northwestern accepts both the common application and the coalition application. We do not have a preference as to which application you submit, whatever works for you and whatever is best for your situation. We have 2 different paths to application as well. So we have our early decision and our regular decision. Early decision is due in just a couple of weeks now. It's due on November 1st, and you'll hear back by about mid-December. This is a really great option for students who know that Northwestern is the right place for them, are sure they want to be a Wildcat, bleed purple in really healthy ways. So with early decision, what's going to happen is if you choose to apply through that route, you, a parent or guardian, as well as your high school counselor, will sign an agreement saying that if you are admitted to Northwestern, you commit to attending and you will withdraw your application from all other institutions. I understand that that can sound like a really big commitment, and if that's not right for you, that's totally okay. We also have regular decision. The deadline for this year for regular decision is January 3rd, 2021, and you'll hear back by about the mid to end of March. This is a great option for students who maybe like Northwestern but aren't 100% sure, want to compare your options, and that is totally understandable. Regardless of which path you take, we are going to review your application in the same way, and that's through a holistic review process. So there is no one component of your application that is more important than any other component. We truly evaluate everything that you submit to us, beginning with your transcript. So with your transcript, we're going to evaluate you in the context of your high school. So we'll get something called a school profile, and what that's going to tell us is what extracurriculars are there? Does your school have AP classes? What's your grading system? We will never compare students at different high schools, knowing that comparing a student who had access to 20 different AP classes and a student who had none is totally not fair at all. So we'll look at your transcript and look at how you've challenged yourself and how you've performed within the context of what was available to you. It is important to note that due to COVID, for this testing cycle or for this application cycle, we are test optional. If you already submitted scores, maybe that was a PSAT or something else, there's an option on the application for you to indicate that you do not want us to look at that. And if you check that option, we will not look at that. That's a really important thing to note. Of course, there is your personal statement, and then there is a specific Why Northwestern essay. So that's about 350 words and a really great opportunity for your voice to shine through on the application. So try to be as specific as possible. Tell us why Northwestern is the right fit for you. Maybe it's a certain program or extracurricular that you want to engage with while you're on campus. Tell us about that, and we really want to know more about you and how you'll fit at Northwestern. There's also a section on this year's application for how COVID-19 has impacted you, whether that's financially, a way that your school has been operating, family status, whatever that is, we want to hear from you, and that's going to be included in our overall holistic review process. Finally, we have our letters of recommendation. Northwestern requires 2 letters of recommendation, one from a guidance counselor and one from a teacher in one of the core subject areas. You are welcome to submit additional letters of recommendation. Just be sure that any additional letter of recommendation is going to add a different perspective to your application. So whether that's a coach, a work supervisor, a volunteer supervisor, just be sure to note quality over quantity. You'll note that in everything I just talked about with admissions, I didn't mention financial aid. And that is because Northwestern reads applications need blind for all US and domestic applicants. So that's US citizens, permanent residents, and undocumented students attending high school in the United States. We are need aware for international applicants, but regardless of whether you are a domestic applicant or an international applicant, once you are admitted, we are 100% need-based for our financial aid. So Northwestern meets 100%, yes, 100% of your demonstrated financial need, and we do so completely loan-free. So we'll cover that with scholarships, grants, and occasionally work study. The way that's going to be calculated is you are going to fill out something called FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, as well as the CSS profile. And that is going to give us a number called the EFC, or your estimate or your expected family contribution. So Northwestern's cost of attendance includes books, tuition, room and board, everything, and comes out to around $75,000. Let's say your family's expected family contribution is about $10,000. We will meet that $65,000 differential, and we will do so 100% loan-free. If you're curious as to what your financial package may look like, we have a net price calculator on our website, and that'll give you a really good estimate of what that might look like for your situation, assuming you put in the most accurate and up-to-date financial information for your family. Whew, talked a lot at you, and now we have a really awesome opportunity to hear from our wonderful panelists and hear less from me. Our first question is about study abroad. Kendall, I know you studied abroad and you are kind of an advisor in that capacity. Can you talk to us about what percentage of students study abroad and also a lot about your experience?
Sure, absolutely. I love talking about study abroad. Some of my friends argue I talk about it too much, but I don't think there's ever too much study abroad. So about 1 in 3 Northwestern students choose to study abroad, and that's from all majors, all schools, all disciplines. There are a couple different ways you can study abroad. So you can either go through a Northwestern sponsored program, which will be all Northwestern students, Northwestern specific classes, things like that, just not obviously at Northwestern. You can do affiliated programs, which are programs that are not run by Northwestern, but Northwestern has signed off on them, said you can go, and those are run through outside organizations, maybe with other Northwestern students, maybe not. And then you can also enroll in local universities, go through that process as well. I specifically studied with an affiliated program, so it wasn't run through Northwestern, but there was another Northwestern student on my program who I hadn't met before until we went abroad, and now we're great friends, so that was kind of an unexpected bonus. But I got to study abroad in Bolivia and Argentina. Like I said, I'm a Spanish minor, so I got to work on my Spanish skills. I lived with a host family, practiced my Spanish skills and got to learn about a whole nother culture. It was a really great experience, totally opened my eyes and changed what I was kind of looking to do when I came back to campus. I sought out different courses. It's a great way for me to sort of apply what I had learned at Northwestern in a totally different context and then come back with new perspectives and new ideas. You also don't have to take academic work abroad. You can do research abroad, apply for different grants to do, like I said, research abroad. We have one specific grant through our Office of Undergraduate Research called the Circumnavigators Grant, in which you can apply to do research in 3 different continents and 5 different countries on whatever thing you want. So one of the past winners wanted to study different music festivals across different countries and applied for this grant and received the money and then got to travel around the world and do their own research. So that's another way you can sort of do learning abroad that's not necessarily academic focused. You can also apply for your own grants, apply to go abroad and do your own work. I also applied for one of those grants this summer, obviously couldn't go abroad, but still got to do research and learn a lot about things outside of this Northwestern bubble. So I'll stop talking about study abroad there, but those are just some of the ways that you can apply to kind of stretch your learning outside of the classroom across the globe in whatever way you want to.
Thank you, Kendall. It's awesome to hear how passionate you are about research or about study abroad. And you also talked a little bit about research, which is another really great aspect of Northwestern. Sanath, I know you've engaged with undergraduate research. Could you tell us about that?
Right. So undergraduate research is a huge part of many people's experience here at Northwestern. The university allocates about $3 million annually to undergraduate research. So what that means practically for you is that if you have expensive research, just in terms of the materials that you need, you can get that funded. And then you can also probably get compensated for your time as well. There's 2 main ways about going about doing research as an undergrad. Number 1 is through the Office of Undergraduate Research. So what they'll do is they'll compile a list of listings from professors that basically say, hey, we want an undergrad to help out with our research. Can you post on your website? And this is a really great way, I think, if you're a first year or a transfer student, to get involved with research, because you don't need to do too much work. You can just kind of peruse the list at sort of your leisure and figure out what's right for you. And the second main way is to reach out yourself, which is the way I went about doing it. This past winter, I attended a CS talk, a computer science talk, held by Stevie Chancellor, and she was talking about her work in sort of the public health realm, but using machine learning techniques. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I really enjoy machine learning. Public health is interesting as well. So I went up to her afterwards and basically said, hey, Stevie, I'm Sanath, nice to meet you. Can I help out with your research? So we set up a time to talk, and lo and behold, I've been researching with Stevie for about a year now, and I'm actually submitting a paper to get published in a couple of weeks, which is really exciting and a little bit scary. So research is something that you can for sure do at Northwestern, and you can also do it sort of whenever you want. So during the academic year is when I've chosen to do it, as I've taken it as a class to get credit. You can also get paid for your research during the year as sort of a work study deal, or you can do it over the summer, which is a really popular option as well. The Office of Undergraduate Research will also sponsor your summer study, so you do get paid over the summer, which is a really nice option. So that's just a little bit about research at Northwestern. There's multiple ways of doing it, and it's important to note that you don't have to be a STEM major. I know multiple people in sort of in the liberal arts fields that have also conducted research in things like history and environmental policy. So that's definitely something to be aware of. But yeah, research is a huge part of the Northwestern experience, and I really think it's been an important part of mine.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Another really great way that students can engage with applied learning is through internships, and we have an awesome Northwestern Career Advancement Center. Alexis, I know you've worked with NCA before. Tell us about that.
Sure. So NCA stands for Northwestern Career Advancement. It's an office on campus that every undergrad has access to. My personal experience with it was my first year. I heard about Northwestern Career Advancement, how great it was for getting you connected to internship opportunities or to job opportunities, even not local. I know I was coming back home for the summer, and so I was looking for internships in Miami. It's really great because they give you this really long survey that you can take at the beginning, and that already connects you with like the style of jobs that you're interested in. It's kind of like a personality test as well, where you can put in like what you want to do. And it connects you with a ton of opportunities, not only in the Chicago area, but pretty much wherever you want. On top of that, I've gone to NCA for a couple of other things. They've helped me with resume building. I had one mock interview, which is really helpful as well. It gets you prepared for what's going to happen when you get into the job world, when you get into those internship scenarios. I've even heard that Northwestern Career Advancement has funding to get you clothes if you need clothes for a proper job interview. So it's a really great office. They do as much as they can for you. I'm pretty sure that Northwestern Career Advancement also does the summer internship grant program through that office. And what's great about the summer internship grant program is that if you're going to take an unpaid internship over summer, you should do that without feeling like you're losing some money that you would have made otherwise. And so what they want to do is make sure that you're taking the internship that you're most passionate about. That's what you're actually interested in. And they'll subsidize that money that you would have lost with that summer internship grant. And then you can take that internship that you wanted to take without feeling any kind of financial constraint.
Thank you so much for that. That was so much awesome information. Moving on to classes a bit, we have some really cool questions. So Nolan, what are some of your favorite classes that you've taken?
Oh man, this is a great question, and I never know how to answer it because I've taken so many great ones. But one class that I usually always go back to is Exploration of Humanities, which is a class jointly taught by President Shapiro and Professor Gary Saul Morrison. Shapiro is an economics professor and Morrison is a literature professor. So every class we talk about the importance of drawing from different arts and sciences and humanities in order to answer a particular question. It is a debate class, so there's a topic every class, and the two go back and forth on the literature side of the argument and the economic side of the argument. And through it all, it just teaches us how to base our arguments around not just what we know, but drawing from what other people know as well from their disciplines. I absolutely loved it. It was great to see the president and one of the top professors at this university go head to head on some issues. But I will always cherish that class.
Awesome. And then Ezri, you're in two different schools, so you can speak to the experience of class sizes, professor engagement, things like that, in quite a few different settings. So chat with us about class sizes and your experience with kind of that and related topics.
Yeah, so as you may or may not have already heard, because it's a really good statistic that Northwestern likes to put out there, is we typically have a class size, an average class size of about 20 people. And although that may sound very small to you, like, oh, wait, what about those big lectures? Those big lectures make up about 2% of the classes on Northwestern's campus. For example, I've only ever been in 2 classes that had over 30 people in them. And most of my classes are actually right now 10 to 15 people and in person 15 to 20 people. Now across the board at Northwestern, I've had a really good experience like engaging with professors, no matter if it was in that 180 person class that I happened to be taking that quarter. I remember that the professor who was actually Professor Morrison, who Nolan was just talking about, was also affiliated with the dormitory that I was in. So he would host like fireside chats and we could literally just ask him questions about the readings if we wanted to, or just chat with him about life. Some of my other professors, like I have a professor in my jazz composition and arranging class, which I'm actually taking right now over Zoom. And even though we're not able to get together more than once every 3 weeks this quarter to actually do some playing, he still has really good engagement with us, and we schedule as much office hours as we need to, and he's always emailing us and answering our questions. And so I've also, like, I think the small class size contributes to that engagement with the professors, but you can always seek it out even if you are in one of those larger classes. And they also will provide support for you through teaching assistants or graduate assistants, which will hold discussion sections and a group of about 10 to 15 students, and you'll just sit and discuss at least once outside of class a week. So that's really helpful as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that kind of segues into our next group of topics, which is kind of residential life, meeting people on campus, and a lot of things about the social aspects of Northwestern. So Nolan, how did you make friends and meet people?
This is a great question. Thank you. Well, before I got to campus, I was a part of a program called the Cherubs. I was a theater arts cherub, and about 24 other cherubs my year got accepted and attend Northwestern now. So I was able to have them as friends on campus because I knew them before. But also, I'm a very personable person, and anytime I was in a new class with people that just are either from different experiences, from the ones that I have, or from different places. I'm also very curious, so I just wanted to learn more about them. Plus, I don't like being silent in class a lot, especially when no one else is talking. I feel like someone needs to break the ice. So I just asked them, where are you from? Why do you choose Northwestern? Just those two questions lead to a wonderful conversation. And even after the class is over, even after the quarter finishes, I find that I'm still friends with them, even if we don't talk all the time. But it was that one class and that one moment where we learned a little bit about each other, that we became close. And because I'm in rehearsals all the time too, with usually the same people, but lots of different people, depending on whatever production I'm in at any given moment, we become a family. So I get close to my friends through that medium as well.
People I've met, really great way to meet students is through all of the different student organizations that we have on campus. So about your experience, some of the really cool student orgs I know you're involved with, and so how you found them.
Elizabeth, you kind of...
I'm seeing confused faces, so I think I cut out. Cool. Okay, I'm going to try again. So another really great way to meet students at Northwestern and to kind of have your peers in student organizations. Sanath, can you tell us about some of the cool clubs you're in and how you found them?
Yeah, of course. I had no idea you were speaking to me before, so sorry for that technical difficulty. So I'll talk about a couple of them. So the first one is Northwestern University Space Technology and Rocket Society. And this is something I met through the club fair. So every fall during a thing called Wildcat Welcome, which is sort of the freshman and transfer orientation that Northwestern puts on for its students. I think there's a 2-day clubs fair, and then other for the entire school. And then some of the colleges will have other club fairs as well. So there's also a McCormick clubs fair. I think Medill has one as well. But NU Stars was at the McCormick clubs fair. So I was just walking around with my friends, and they basically said, "Hey, Sanath, we make rockets and we shoot them into the air and then we deploy a robot. How cool is that?" I said, "That is really cool." So I joined on, and NU Stars has been one of the best decisions, or joining NU Stars has been one of the best decisions I've made at Northwestern. I made plenty of great friends. I'm really close with the NASA student launch team. When I was a freshman, the seniors took the freshmen sort of under their wing, and they held a whole series of just workshops and talks about how to get past Northwestern Mechanical Engineering Department, or how to survive classes, or how to manage midterm week. And it's just a really great informal mentorship program that lots of organizations have. It doesn't have to be NU Stars. It can be many of the awesome clubs that we have on campus. Some of the other great examples of clubs are the a cappella groups. I think we have 16 or 17 a cappella groups. So even if you're not a music major, that's a really great way to get involved. Unfortunately, I don't have any singing talent, but if I did, I would for sure join one of them. There's also many different theater productions that happen on campus. I think it's about 50 of them, or 85 of them, right? 85 theater productions that happen throughout the year. And many of those are available for people to join. Some other clubs that are sort of outside the sphere of academics and music or productions. One example could be a sports club. I was part of Northwestern Ultimate Frisbee team for a couple of years. That's not exactly happening right now, given the entire pandemic situation. That was a great opportunity for me to meet a lot of different people and just get out there and stay active, even during the winter time, because we get access to the indoor field house, which is a really amazing part of campus that I think you should get. And it's a really great part of campus that you should check out if you get the chance to join us. So that's just a few examples of clubs. There's sort of a club for any sort of interest that you may have. If there's somehow a club that's not on campus that you think should be, it's really easy to get started. I think you grab 7 of your friends and a faculty advisor, get them to sign the paperwork, and then you have your own club. So student organizations are absolutely a huge part of every student's experience at Northwestern. And I've absolutely loved my experience with them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And we have a question from Owen about kind of a specific category of student organizations, and that's political groups. So Kendall, can you talk to the political atmosphere, culture, and engagement on campus?
Sure. So I'll start off by saying one of my favorite things in general about Northwestern is how passionate people are about everything, anything they're interested in, and that definitely translates to political involvement, whether that's initiatives for getting people out to register to vote. We have this organization called NU Votes that every year during the election is out helping students register to vote, find out their candidates, either if they're registered here in Evanston or back in their home state. Part of our move-in actually is NU Votes. So before you've even really moved into your dorm, there will be someone from NU Votes asking you, have you registered to vote? What are your plans for voting, even if it's not an election year? So that's a really cool way that Northwestern is encouraging students to be civically active in that capacity. But there's so many other ways for civic engagement. Like Sanath was saying, there are student groups that'll bring political speakers to campus. Even if you're not a political science or legal studies major, there's still ways to get involved with those clubs, like Sanath was saying about music, but that's true for politics too. Students really are engaged in a lot of different issues. I know climate change has been a really big issue for a lot of students across majors and disciplines. So there have been panels and meetings and demonstrations about that aspect of political engagement. So there's just a lot of different ways to get involved, all sort of under that passion of Northwestern students for finding causes that they care about and believe in whatever sort of civic participation or civic engagement that you're interested in.
Awesome. And now, Ezri, for you, we have a question about Greek life as a part of social life on campus. And I also know you're incredibly passionate about the Northwestern theater and art scene. So maybe you can tackle both of those for us.
Yeah, for sure. So Greek life on campus is as much a part of your life as you want it to be. The statistic is that about 40% of Northwestern students are involved in Greek life. However, you have to have a caveat with that statistic because that doesn't just include what you traditionally think of as sororities and fraternities. We have pre-professional fraternities, we have the multicultural and the traditionally Black fraternities. There are a lot of philanthropic fraternities, the music fraternity and the music sorority. You can get involved in any of those as you see fit. I will say that I was involved in Greek life. It was a part of my life, and I actually found myself spending most of my time away from it, so much so that I decided to deactivate from my Greek organization. It was the right choice for me because I found that I was having so many other commitments on other parts of campus. And so, like I said before, it can be as much a part of your life as you want it to be. All around campus, you're going to find that there are always events happening. Like you can't go a single night without there being at least one club holding an event, or your residential hall holding a movie night, or having cider and donuts and like talking in a lounge. There's always things to do. Or you can just grab a group of friends and go see a movie at the movie theater in downtown Evanston. I think a few of us were saying before, there's like constantly shows going on. I'm involved in a lot of music and the arts. I'm in one of those a cappella groups. We compete in the competition that Pitch Perfect is based off of. Pitch Perfect was in part based on Northwestern. That's a true fact. And so I like to say that we're the real life Pitch Perfect, but it's not that dramatic. It is a lot of fun though. That is where I found my first family and my first friends, and they've stayed my best friends. Like Nolan was talking about, we're also constantly in rehearsals, and so I've gotten really close to people in that way. We have 9 student theater boards, each putting on at least 4 productions a year, so you like cannot get away from student theater even if you tried. And those are completely produced and put on and acted in by students. So even if you are not a theater major and you're like, hey, I think I'd like to try costume designing, you just literally ask. You just find somebody that's involved in theater, say, hey, I want to do this, and they can get you connected to the right people to ask. So there's so many ways to get involved, and like I said, there's always going on campus, which is really, really nice.
Awesome. And some of my favorite experiences from my time at Northwestern, even though I have no artistic talent, we're going to those a cappella shows and we're going to all of those different theater productions. And I think that Northwestern's culture is really great in that students are supporting each other no matter what their interest is, whether it's Sanath and Rockets or Ezri and Acapella. It's really a collaborative community. We had a question about types of community service opportunities that Northwestern offers. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this one because this is something I've spent a lot of time doing during my time at Northwestern. So Northwestern really has so many community service options. There are formal options through the university, but there are also, as you can kind of sense with our theme, so many student organizations dedicated to this as well. I spent the last year and spent all 4 of my years at Northwestern as the co-director of Camp Kesem. So that's a nonprofit that provides free camp and year-round support for kids affected by a parent's cancer. That was a student org that was like by far the most meaningful to me during my time at Northwestern, but there are also so many other service opportunities. There's Northwestern Dance Marathon, which is a pretty big one at Northwestern. So about 1,000 students, which is about an eighth of our undergraduate student body, will come together in a tent, dance for 30 hours remotely last year, hopefully in person this year, but whatever is safest for students and the Northwestern community alike, and come together to raise money for a beneficiary of their choice. There are also a lot of really great community service opportunities that help students to engage with Chicago, like I was mentioning earlier. So whether that's Supplies for Dreams, Peer Health Exchange, so that has Northwestern students go into local Chicago classrooms and teach health education. Those are both really great options for students to really not simultaneously explore Chicago, but also get to give back or do something that they're really passionate about. Another great way that students can meet people, which I know we've touched on a bit earlier, I think Nolan was talking about his experience, or someone was talking about their experience with residential life. Alexis, I know you lived in a residential college. Can you talk about your experience?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, actually, I lived in a residential college for 2 years, actually in the same room. So I lived in Shepherd Residential College, whose theme is that you don't have a theme, right? And so it was a really great group of people. It was about 72 of us. And the best part about it was that, you really felt like you knew everybody that was there. Professors like Professor Ben Gorvine, Fred Northrup, I mean, just great professors from different departments, really had a vested interest in SMQ, South Mid Quads. And it was a really great time. The amount of friends that I can tell you that I made through SMQ is kind of innumerable, even though I can tell you how many people live there. So there's different ways to live at Northwestern, right? So you can live in a residential college like I did, right? That would be something that maybe you'd call thematic living. So something like Slivka, for example, as an engineering residential college. There's a ton, right? These are all available to you on the housing portal, and you can see how they fit in with your interests, but they're generally smaller than residential halls. They generally do, maybe exercise isn't the right word, but events, right? That bring the people together that are going to be living there. Really cool, close-knit communities, and they're great for stuff like intramurals, for example. They always have intramural teams based on Res College, so that's a really great way to get involved. Res halls, larger. You can think of some of actually a lot of the dining halls are in Res halls, right? So like Allison, Sargent, Elder, etc. These are larger. I would generally say that you'll know the people around you, maybe the people on your floor if your RA does a good job. But you probably won't know everybody in the building, right? And this is, there's a ton on campus. It's similar to a res college, except it doesn't have that theme and it's a little bit larger. As it was alluded to earlier, Greek life is an option if you wanted to live that way as well. But res life on campus is really great. It's a 2-year live-on experience that Northwestern guarantees you. And in that time, you really do get to meet a ton of people. You really get to feel what it's like to be on campus and part of the Northwestern community. So yeah.
Awesome. We have talked quite a bit about student organizations, and I think you can tell how passionate everyone is about the different student orgs that they've talked about. And that might leave you wondering, how do you balance everything that you do outside of the classroom with what you're doing inside of the classroom? So Nolan, can you talk about how you balance your academics and your extracurriculars, as well as staying mentally healthy, dealing with stress, and overall just finding time for you too?
Oh man, this is a loaded question. Let me take it step by step, which I think is a great way to start this question, because that's what I do whenever I do feel overwhelmed. I just, I see everything that I have to do right in front of me. And instead of worrying about trying to finish it all right now, what can I focus on right now? One thing I learned being a student here is One, I'm not super awesome at time management. I've gotten considerably better, but I'm still not great at it. So I can't divide my mind to focus on everything at once. So I said, well, what needs to get done right now? Let me focus on that. And also just reaching out to people for help whenever I needed it does wonders for my mental health. Earlier on during my time here, it's very easy to think that you're alone in trying to finish everything and being involved with so much and having so much work to do. But almost every student at Northwestern is like that. We're all going through the same thing, whether it's just throughout the entire quarter or just through midterm or final season. We all experience the same thing at many different times. So I have my friends to lean on whenever I'm in those situations, just being around them, doing my work around them, getting encouragement from them, and also encouraging them in return, because that two-way street really helps with my own perseverance and my own mental health. Just really helps a lot. And leaning on your support system. Even though I'm from Evanston, I didn't really go home often, but I did call my parents whenever I needed their help. I did call my old mentors because they've been through this before, and I'm so young and there's so much that I don't know. So leaning on them and just taking it one step at a time is really how I get through.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think that was all great advice, but we all obviously also handle stress differently. So Ezri, do you want to share your perspective on how you balance things?
Yeah, so I get a lot of questions about time management, especially because I am in a degree program. I'm also someone that's doing this dual degree program in 4 years instead of 5. So I've had to pile on a lot of classes. And one thing that I just always say is write it all down, like be very organized. My favorite thing about academics at the school is my advisors are just God sent. I love them so much. They know exactly the classes that I need to take, and if I'm struggling in one of those classes and don't know if I should drop it and take another one or what I should do, I can always ask them, and they always have great advice. They can help get me into classes if I'm worried about a graduation requirement, whatever. And another thing I did with them is I sat down and I mapped out all the classes I'd need to take at Northwestern and when I was going to take them. And I have a spreadsheet my computer that I open up at least twice a quarter. I meet with my advisors twice a quarter. So I just make sure that I'm staying really organized. So that was a big picture thing. A little picture thing is I do a lot of the same things that Nolan was talking about. I take everything very step by step. I write down everything that I have to do. I'm very organized with lists, and then I make sure that I'm prioritizing correctly. So for example, I'm one of those people that will get really down on myself if I'm not doing every assignment perfectly, but you have to remember that you're just a human, and you're also doing a lot of things that are making it like that are padding your college experience. So for example, I'm in rehearsals 3 times a week, even in Zoom format, and I'm doing a lot of arranging and orchestrating for that. So I have to remember that that's also teaching me so much. And so it's okay to take time for that. And just staying really organized with that, and making sure that you know that you can get through this. We got into Northwestern. Our professors are always here for us, and there are people that came before us that are also here for us as well. I have a lot of friends who were seniors when I was a freshman that I still text, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did you get through this class? And they still are happy to either just complain with me or give me some advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. We also have a question about balance, specifically as a student athlete. Kendall, I know you have some friends and peers who were involved with student athletes or were student athletes at Northwestern. How did they balance their time?
Yeah, so obviously I am not a student athlete at Northwestern. I was in high school, but I'm not here. So I'm just going to be sharing stories that I've heard from other people, not speaking from my own experience. So yeah, I've actually met a lot of student athlete friends through my classes. There's no expectation here that student athletes do less work or different work than Northwestern students. Absolutely not. We are all students first and foremost. So they are in my classes just like anyone else. From what I've heard from them, it's a lot about balance as well. Balancing, it's the same as any sort of club or academic obligation. You have your practice, you have your classes, you have different support groups. Through that, I know people always talk about how much they love their teams and their sports teams. And that's the same if you're a varsity athlete or if you're doing an intramural club, like Alexis was talking about with your dorm. It's all about balance and things. But it's also really cool to get to see some student athletes in your classes. Like during football season, we'll talk about, football games with some of the students, or professors will bring up things. I also made friends with someone who was on the field hockey team. I had never been to a field hockey team. I'm from the Midwest. Field hockey's not that big where I'm from, so I didn't know anything about it. But I made friends with someone in my classes, and she invited me to some of the games, and I got to watch. And it was so cool to see someone who I was just doing a group project with go out and score a bunch of goals out on the field by the lake. So again, these are not my experiences, but it's really cool to get to meet a bunch of different people and see how they're balancing making their Northwestern direction their own.
Awesome. We have some fun reflective questions now as we kind of move towards the end of our panel. So Sanath, what is your favorite thing about Northwestern and what would you change?
This is a really good question. Favorite thing about Northwestern, there's a lot I like about Northwestern. I think just like the academic flexibility. Number one, like, yeah, you can take all the classes that you want, right? So I came in knowing that I wanted to do something in the engineering field. But then sort of like with the whole brain engineering curriculum and this real emphasis on exploring the liberal arts, even if you are an engineer, got me to discover psychology, and now I have a minor in psychology because I've really enjoyed my classes there. But sort of like what's kind of like a hidden sort of bonus to that is every other student at Northwestern is sort of doing the same thing, and they're exploring their other interests. And you meet all these people that you don't think you would meet before that have really cool major combinations or interested in really crazy things. Like one of my really great friends is a double major in viola performance and physics. So it's kind of cool to talk about something that I like, which is classical music with him, and then totally switch gears and talk about like quantum physics. So I think that's a really neat thing. And I sort of love everything that academic flexibility brings to the Northwestern experience. One thing I would change about Northwestern, gosh, that's really tough. This is sort of a weird gripe that I have, but with the neighborhoods so we do residential neighborhoods, and these are sort of dorms that are collected in a certain space, and they can share facilities with each other. So there's a southwest dorm space, and then there's sort of a northern dorm space, and they're really far from each other, which makes me feel like during my first year, it's not like I would never speak to anyone from the south. It's not like a weird divide there, but it is sort of a long way to go, and they'll sort of stick to their dining halls, and the northerners where I was would stick to their dorms, their dining halls, and we'd only really meet for classes, or you have to make a real effort to go down there to hang out with someone. So that'd be like my one gripe, but I wouldn't call it like a big deal. It's not like I never saw anyone there. So this is me harkening back to my first year, pulling something, and it's so minor, right? So that's sort of how far you need to go to find an issue with Northwestern. But yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Alexis, what was the moment that made you feel like you belonged at Northwestern?
Wow. I don't think I've ever had this one before, actually. So, all right. So when I first got there, during the orientation program, during Wildcat Welcome and stuff, I was meeting everybody. In my PA group, we're doing like True Northwestern Dialogues, which are these kinds of like large scale seminars that they do. One of them's like a play, another one, they have like a talk. I mean, it's just about kind of getting you acclimated to campus, right? You go and reflect with your PA group after. But I think when it really, like, I really felt like, hey, Northwestern's really for me, was he's still my best friend now, but one of my best friends, from high school came with me to Northwestern, and my buddy Andrew, who's also now one of my best friends from my PA group, was like, hey, do you want to go eat or something? Bring your roommate. And I was like, you've never met him? Like, okay, I mean, yeah, I'll bring him. And we all went to eat. Andrew ended up inviting a couple of other people. And we all just like hung out eating at this place called Buffalo Joe's. I'm sure that y'all all know it, but I mean, it's incredible. And I remember sitting there eating, and I had this kind of like out of body moment where I was like, hey, like I'm in college. Like this is what it is. Like, this is what it means to be in college. Like I'm eating at this like kind of dumpy restaurant far away from home with a bunch of people that I've never met. Like I'm here and I'm with it. So, I think it speaks to the way that the community aspect at Northwestern is so welcoming, because I mean, I'd been there for 2 days and I had already, met so many people.
Awesome. And now in our final 10-ish minutes, we are going to close out with everyone telling you why Northwestern for them, especially as application deadlines come closer and closer. I think it's great to know why students chose Northwestern and also why they've loved Northwestern during their time here. So Nolan, would you want to kick us off?
Yes, I would love to. I will be very brief. I chose Northwestern because it had everything I wanted in a school, and it made me happy and it made me feel good. And I knew that once I found this school, the search was over. Like I said before, I grew up here, so it wasn't on my list of schools for a long time. But when I realized that I myself was holding myself back from this phenomenal university and its offerings, I knew that I just needed to put myself aside and just focus on what I needed and what I wanted. And I knew that that was here at Northwestern. So that's why I chose this school. And I think it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Ezri, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my why Northwestern was about how I wanted to do two things, and I didn't want to. I'm so sorry for the beeping. My roommate's cooking, and our fire alarm keeps going off. I promise my apartment sends smoke. I chose a Northwestern because I wanted to study two things. I knew I wanted to study music and I wanted to study journalism, and I didn't want to sacrifice either one. And I remember looking up Northwestern and seeing these dual degree programs. Like I can vividly remember the page on the Bean School website, Bean School Music's website, and I was like, great, that's awesome. I am so excited to go visit. And then I visited, I stepped on campus and it felt like home. And since then, I've been really grateful to my advisors, like I said earlier, for helping me every step along the way, and also for all those older students that I met in my groups, like my a cappella group, who immediately took me under their wing. They proved everything to be true. And I am so happy that I was at Northwestern. Now I will stop sharing the lovely beeping sound behind me. Kendall, you can go ahead.
Cool. Hopefully my fire alarm doesn't go off. I'll talk quickly. So I kind of came into Northwestern. I had a vague idea of what I wanted to do. Also, like Ezri, I absolutely loved the campus. Lake Michigan is, it feels like home to me. I'm from Illinois, so it's always been a really important part of my life. I know we have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel, so you can see it digitally if you can't get here in person. So that was like kind of a simple thing. But like I said, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had a general idea. But when I was applying here, I actually met one of the advisors in the School of Education and Social Policy as a prospective student. And she sort of walked me through everything and explained that it was totally fine. I didn't know what I wanted to do. A lot of students don't know what they wanted to do. And I would have the opportunity to sort of try out a bunch of different things. So that was really reassuring to me as someone who sort of knew what they wanted to do, but not really. And I really appreciated that freedom over my 4 years here. I did not think I would have 2 minors or stick with different things. And actually, the same advisor I talked to when I was a prospective student remembered me when I came back to campus. And that was something that was really, really special to me, that the faculty really do care about their students and want to help them, like a couple of us have already said. So that just sort of like reaffirmed my decision. But really the flexibility and the openness that everyone has here was a really big factor, and something I'm so glad that I've got to experience for the past 4 years. Who hasn't answered yet? Alexis, you want to go next?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, for me, obviously a ton of things influenced my decision, but to keep it as short as possible, I did a ton of research about where I could really see myself being happy and where I could see myself being happy for a whole 4 years. And Northwestern was that place for me. When I took my tour guide, I mean, this guy knew everyone. Like 80 people must have said hi to him on my tour. People were like smiling, giving each other hugs on the way to class. I was like, what is this, man? Like, are you going to school? And so my thought process was, wherever I'm going to do my 4 years, I want to make sure I'm happy throughout it, because I don't think I'll be successful if I'm not. And whatever, it reigns true. Northwestern is a really good place to be happy. I don't know who hasn't gone.
All right, I think I'll take us home here. So I think like the two words that I would use to describe Northwestern, sort of the key words, are flexibility and choice, and this sort of permeates itself like throughout the Northwestern experience. So we talked a lot about academic flexibility. So even if you have a home college or like a home major, you can double major or you can explore class in other schools. There's 500 student organizations. We've hit on that a lot. There's a lot that you can do there, but even sort of like in your social life, right? So we have a beautiful campus in Evanston, Illinois. It's a great college town, but if you want to go explore Chicago, go for it. There's tons of great food out there. There's great museums. It's a really lovely city that, especially during the warmer months, I really enjoy exploring. If sports are your thing, go to a sports game during the fall, go to a football game on a Saturday. That's been a huge part of my experience. If you don't like sports, don't go, right? So there's tons of things to do. I've met all sorts of great people. And it's really like a great like choose your own adventure that everyone takes in Northwestern, and it's all like a very unique experience to who you are and what you want to do. And I sort of got that during my visit to Northwestern. I'm someone that likes to I like choice. I like doing lots of different things. I love exploring, and I knew I would saw myself really well, fitting in really well in Evanston at Northwestern. So that's why I ended up coming here, and that's why I still love it. Elizabeth, back to you.
Sanath really set us up quite well for our final question, which is one word that you would use to describe Northwestern. He's already given us his two, but for the remaining four panelists, what's one word that you would use to describe Northwestern? Ezri, you look like you're ready to go.
I did. I just thought of one. Collaborative. Kendall?
Said it already, but passionate.
It's homey. Nolan.
Insane. That's my word.
Those are all great words and really sentiments that I totally concur with. I've loved my time at Northwestern, and I'm so happy to still be here getting to engage with all of the current students and with prospective students, of course. That being said, we have so many awesome ways for you to engage with our office. We have Northwestern Comes to You visits, high school visits, depending on what your high school is. And of course, our awesome YouTube channel, which we love so much here at Northwestern Admissions. So make sure you subscribe to that and feel free to check out our website to see all of the upcoming programming that we have similar to this panel. We have student and school specific panels. And so really great opportunities, as well as our Thank God It's Purple Friday series on our Instagram Live every Friday as well. So check all of those out. And of course, thank you so much for spending the last hour hanging out with us. We hope this has been helpful and informative. And of course, we hope you have a wonderful night. And as always, go Cats.